Welcome back. In this video on the construction of my 7 meter or 23-foot Sharpie, I fit the mast bearings to the Tabernacle and I join the mast sections. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, welcome to the Tabernacle project. It's about time I knocked this one over, and good on you for suggesting it as my next video, because I need to do some work on here before I can finish the fairing in this area. So it is pretty natural next step in the evolution of the building of this boat. So this bearing is supposed to go in here, and I've talked in the past about cutting a slot in here that this will slide down into. But first of all, I'll try cleaning up on the insides here and see what I can gain in the way of clearance. Alright, let's do the nasty part. So I've machined these pins from 41 to 40, and this distance here I've machined from 130.6 to 130. When I machined them up in the first place, I left them a little bit oversized. Well, I certainly wouldn't want to reduce that thickness there any more than it is. It's about 9 millimeters. I've sanded out these surfaces here. A little bit of a neat fit, but I'll put some of this stuff, some sanding guide on this, find out where the high spots are on this, make sure this is lined up with the bottom there, where the bottom bearing will go. Well, as you can see on this side, with 5 degrees, I've cut these sides out. Going to do the same here so that this can drop in. This top will end up roughly flush with this top. Once I've cut these out, I'll do a lot of radiusing around here so that I can lay about 4 layers of double bias, wrap it around this corner. What I'm going to do in my first sails is, when this bearing drops down in there, I'm going to have a ratchet strap around here. I'll probably go around a couple of times, ratchet it up, just so I can get a sense of, while I'm getting a sense of what the forces are here, and until I get a way of maybe clamping it in a more mechanical way. I'll have that strap around there so it'll keep these sides compressed against the sides of this bearing. It's funny for me to see the clock whirring around behind me there. The fiberglassing went well. Then I used this bit of aluminium tube here, covered in some PVC tape, to fill in the corners after leveling this, sanding these round bits on the bottom that this will sit on. Nice smooth surface, round surface down here. I pretty much sanded down to the carbon fibre on the inside, so I sanded some extra and decided to put a thin layer of double bias, 400 grams, which is 0.3 to 0.4 of a millimeter compressed. I may have to take a little bit off this one, as I did for that one down there. It's proving to be tricky, and a lot of that's on me because I didn't do quite the full calculations I needed to starting this job. And also I changed the design of this, you might remember. I'm not sure if I'm going to use those sheaves there now to pull the mast up, and the line would have to come up, hopefully, well, it would have probably come up the inside here, gone through another sheave up here somewhere, and gone to a deck organizer and back to the winch and a clutch to hold the mast up. Well, I've been wondering for quite a while if a better method would be to have a forestay, which is just to hold up the mast, and later on that same forestay might serve the dual purpose of having a furling code 0 on it. So initially, to get the boat in the water and going, I might just have a forestay with a block on it. Be interesting to see how much I have to machine off, if anything, from the bearing after I clean all this up. Theoretically, there should be close to nothing. So I'm getting ready to join the mast. There's two sections. This one is 100 millimeters, 4 millimeters wall, and which is about 3/16 by 4 inches diameter. And there's one up there that's 100 millimeters by 3 wall, and it's T5. This one down here is T6. So this is what my plan is, and there's virtually nothing left over. So this bottom section obviously is the 4 millimeter wall thickness, and it goes up to here. It's 6 meters length, so what I'm doing is cutting off 900. That 900 is this joining section. So it'll go halfway inside each tube. The T5 that's up here, I'm leaving at full length, which is roughly 5 meters. And so my plan is to, this 900 millimeter section here, cut it off, put a slot in it so it slides inside this section. Going to do some scuffing with sandpaper and cleaning with acetone. Don't know if I'll have time tonight, but shove that inside this tube here. It's not going to be so easy. I'm probably going to have two come-alongs, we call them, or chain blocks, or whatever you like to call them. I'll be putting epoxy inside the tube and on the outside on the sleeve that goes in here. So I'm going to give it 24 hours, and then the thinner wall section will slide over the top of it. As you will have imagined, there's going to be 0.5 millimeter clearance on the top section on this sleeve close to this bottom section. I haven't done this before, but that's my plan. Now, if you're worried about the strength of things, at about 13 knots, which is when I'd start to want to reduce sail area for this boat, like you typically would for a large overlapping Genoa. You don't want to carry that up to 20 knots, that's for sure. There's a safety factor down here at this point of about 3 at about 13 knots, and then you should start reefing down a bit after that. Take a roll or 2 or 3 in. At this point, if I remember correctly, it's like, for this section here, I think it's 9 or something, and for that join in there, that sleeve in there, which is critical, it's about 7 or 8 safety factor. So long before that would go, it would go down at the deck here. What I'm doing is not untypical. A lot of the junk rig boats have an aluminium tube for part of their mast. Quite often they put a tapered wooden mast on the top of it, which slides down inside the aluminium tube for the bottom part. Well, there's my slot, and I've done the calculation for what the diameter is with this crushed in, and the inside diameter basically of that. And then I've given it a couple of extra millimeters, actually probably about 3. I certainly don't want the gap closing fully when I'm part way in, and I won't be able to have a second go at this. I'm a little bit nervous that I possibly should have used the top section instead of this section for this joiner. This will be so much stronger because it's T6. It's got so much more strength to it. But I'm going to try crushing it in now with my clamps to see if I can start it in here before I even try to glue it in there. So there it is, guys. I've got it started. You start to wonder if I really need to put it together with glue, and I'll certainly have to do it for the top part, because like I said, the top part is 3mm wall and that's 4mm wall. So some glue's got to take up the gap there to start with anyway. Down this end, for the rest it'll probably expand into the tube quite well. This T6 is amazingly strong. These clamps are serious clamps. They build a few steel boats and they're probably the strongest clamps you can get. You really got to crank on them to crush this enough to get it in there. It's nearly 7:30 at night and I think I've got everything ready. I've cleaned with acetone, I've roughed up with sandpaper, orbital in this case. I think I've got everything good to go, but I'll wait till the morning. I had to put the glue on here because it was overheating. Well, it was starting to get slightly warm, and that's a sign it's about to go off. Ten more minutes, 9, 8, 5, 0. Looking good. When I took the clamps off, the glue was started coming out a bit, filling all the gaps. Pretty happy with that result. I was a little bit nervous at the end. I was having to really crank those come-alongs. One's a 1/2 ton and the other one's a 1.5 ton. So there was quite a bit of force on there. I expected to push out some glue as it warms up a little bit. I intentionally did it quite early this morning because I didn't want the glue going off, and as it was in the pot it certainly was, so that's why I spread it out on that board. If you're worried about the inside and not having enough glue, maybe it's going to be hard to make this focus. There it is. Just made it focus. If you're worried that there wasn't enough glue on the inside of that tube, as it slid down in there, you can see that there was plenty. I put this layer of 400 gram double bias around here because it usually turns out to be 0.4 of a millimeter thick. I need to take up 1 millimeter of clearance when I put the next tube on, so it's not there for strength, it's just there as a packer. This is the setup. Fingers crossed. Actually, it should slide a lot easier onto that one than the sleeve going into that 100x4. Yes. It's a good start. I'm wondering if I should leave some tension on it. I better check for alignment first. I think it's near enough. Yeah. It's a really hot day, and that was quite an effort to keep ahead of the glue going off. But there it is, guys. It's glued together. I'm pretty sure it's as straight as it can be. Unless you put a lot of screws in, I don't really think you're getting a lot out of the screws. That's my feeling. What do you reckon, guys? The mast is glued together, the two sections, the 10-meter mast with T6 on the bottom and T5 on the top, 4mm, 3mm. The join's right in the middle. I'm going to leave it for the rest of the day for the glue to go off. Then I can pull the end inside the shed so I can close the shed. But I'll leave it as long as possible. I'll leave the tension on it. The Tabernacle, as you could see, I've got some decisions to make there. Please weigh in if you have some opinions or ideas. It's been quite a long video. Better end it here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.